Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Talk Tech with Tiff. In this episode, I am sitting down with Marizza, who is a data scientist at Etsy. We talk about the highs and also really dive into the lows of being a data scientist, her journey into data science, and also speak about her passions from becoming third runner-up Miss New York USA to modeling and so much in between. Before we get into it, though, make sure to go check out my newsletter. I linked it down below. It's a monthly newsletter that features unique job descriptions, discount codes, career advice, and always a little personal note from me. Okay, let's dive into it. Welcome to Talk Tech with Tiff, the New York edition, where I am sitting down with industry professionals to hear about their career journeys and current roles. I created this series to hear from people who are established in the tech industry so that we can all learn what these individuals do in their day-to-day jobs and the type of opportunities out there. Hi, Marizza. How's it going?
Good. It's a beautiful day in New York.
I know,
So you
it's
came
gorgeous.
on a great weekend.
I know, I really did.
Not too cold, like a little bit chilly, but
Yeah.
super sunny.
I know, and this is my first time in Brooklyn, actually.
Oh yeah,
I know.
there's so many children on this block, and I'm not used to that.
Yeah.
I live in Dumbo, so it's very like industrial and a lot of buildings, and like Etsy is there. So yeah, it's very new, refreshing.
I know. This whole area, people keep on telling me it's very family oriented. I definitely get that sense.
Yeah,
But
all my coworkers live here.
okay,
Yeah.
yes. A coworker, I did a conversation earlier with a coworker of mine who has 2 children, and he lives like a few blocks away kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's so funny. It's so wonderful getting to meet wonderful people like yourself in real life. And I know you were saying prior to this podcast that you've been meeting a lot of others as well recently, content creators. So
Yeah.
it's so great.
In real life, it's such a like different experience. We always
I
like DM each
know.
other, support each other
Yes.
on Instagram, and then now seeing each other in person,
I
it
know.
like makes it all real. I just met Maggie and Data, the
Yeah.
STEM Diaries. I've known
Yeah.
Linda for a while.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah,
I know.
everyone has been like the same as they are,
I know.
and
That's
like as
awesome.
friendly as they are
I love
on
that.
Instagram. So I love it.
I totally agree. And I feel like there are so many, you just listed some amazing women. I feel like there's so many amazing women in New York. That's why I was like, I need to come to New York and meet you all. Like,
Yes.
it's just like jam packed, which I love. It's
I
perfect.
know. Like New York, SF,
Yeah.
like Canada, maybe up and coming. Yes.
Yeah, up and coming. We're getting there, Toronto, slowly but surely. But we're here today to hear about you and, your journey in tech and as a data scientist. And I'm sure you get asked all the time about your role as a data scientist and what it really entails. But tell me a bit about it, a bit about your background, what led you into data science. I know you do a lot outside of data science as well, which we'll get to later because I think it's super important to cover those aspects as well. But what is a day in the life like for a data scientist?
So at Etsy, a data scientist means a lot of different things.
Okay.
So not only are you a coder, but you're also a problem solver, a statistician, and a domain expert. So on my day-to-day, like the first couple of days of the week, so Monday to Wednesday, I'll be in a lot of meetings. A big part of being a data scientist is communicating with stakeholders and presenting your analyses and storytelling with data. So that's the first half of my week. And then Thursday and Friday are more like focus days, focus time to just heads down time to code. And that includes like building tables with the logic, our business logic embedded into them. Also creating dashboards based off of those tables and also experiment analysis, which is the fun part of the job.
What is experiment analysis?
So I actually got into data science because I was fascinated by experimentation and iterating on a product to make it better. So I have a couple of experiments going on right now, and usually how that works is first the ideation process with your product manager, working, and as a data scientist, you work with different people on the team, such as a product manager, a product designer, and engineers. So first is the ideation process with my product squad, and
Okay.
then we go into launching the experiment. And
Mhm.
we have an experimentation platform at
Okay.
Etsy, so it has all the key metrics in there to measure for like a time period, like let's say 2 weeks. That's usually how we test each of our new features. And then by the end of the 2 weeks, I will report and conclude the experiment, and like there will be a financial impact and a customer impact. So I measure that at the end and do like a post analysis.
Wow, that
Yeah.
is super interesting. And I love how you said it's something you've always been interested in with around experimentation. And that's kind
Yeah.
of how, kind of going back on that note, really, tell me a bit about your background. What led you, what was your schooling like? Like, how did you kind of discover data science?
So I grew up in the Silicon Valley,
Okay.
and that's all tech. I was surrounded by innovation growing up. My
Hmm.
dad is a director of infrastructure, so he's a software engineer.
Yeah.
And I grew up really loving math and science.
Yeah.
So when I went to college, I graduated with a IT degree.
Hmm.
But I didn't discover data science until I went to Grace Hopper Celebration, which is the largest celebration and gathering of women technologists in the world.
Hmm.
So that's where I discovered data science. It was the track that interested me the most. So when you're at Grace Hopper, you follow a track
Oh, that's
of
cool.
sessions.
Okay.
And I learned so much about experimentation, like multivariate experimentation, and was just so inspired. I never knew that this was a part of software engineering, because when you major in computer science, you have to find your specialization.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And so that's where I was kind of lost. Like I didn't know, I was more like a generalist.
Yeah.
And at Grace Hopper, I found data science. I fell in love with the idea of experimentation.
Yeah.
And yeah, the rest is history.
Wow. I've never been to a Grace Hopper conference, which is so sad to
Yeah,
say.
yeah, you
But it's on
should.
my like very near bucket list. Like hopefully the next one. I think because the last 2 years, I don't even know. I think last year it was in person, right? But
This year was in
this year
person,
was
and then the past 2 years was virtual.
virtual. Yeah.
It's
So
way worth it to go in person.
yes.
And yeah, next year we'll go like as speakers.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We're
Let's have
putting that
that.
out there.
Yeah, that's our goal for next year.
Yeah. We're putting it out there. I love it. You went to Grace Hopper after this all occurred after you graduated college, or was it during?
It was during my sophomore year of college.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice. And then so from there, did you do an internship first, or how did you kind of what was the next step from there when you discovered data science?
So after that, I actually took a gap year in between community college
Okay.
and university.
Hmm.
I did a nano degree on Udacity
Okay. Yeah.
for data science.
Nice.
So that's where I got my background in SQL and Python.
Yeah.
And I took that gap year to focus on modeling full time. That's when I first moved to New York. It was really exciting. And I did internships after my junior year of university.
I see. And then it kind of just organically,
Yeah.
one thing to another.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Oh, sorry. No.
And during I want to say like these internships were like quote unquote data science internships, because
Yeah.
at startups you really wear many hats.
Yes.
So not only was I doing data science, or like I also got to call it data science because the co-founders were like, oh yeah, you could call yourself whatever you want.
Whatever you want.
Whatever's good on the resume.
I love that. That's something I always like when people are first kind of starting out, and it's similar to what I did when I was first starting out, is a great way to really get your foot in the door, or through internships. There's many ways, but one way I found for myself, and it sounds like for you as well, is when you go with a smaller company or a startup, there's so much more, typically, more freedom or flexibility to kind of try out different roles or wear many hats, and even kind of, massage your title a little bit, just kind of, to whatever you fall in love with. So that's really interesting that's how it happened for you.
I did everything at these startups, from like data entry, but also like marketing and like front end development. So I was many things.
Yeah, I love that. As you know, data science is such a popular role right now, and everyone's just like, how do I become a data scientist? I feel like, do you work with a question that I get asked, not necessarily, of course, around data science, but in general is, do I have to, maybe they're later in life or different things like that with schooling. Do you work with anyone who is, say, self-taught, or did kind kind of like you mentioned, doing a nano degree online, like different walks of life for
Yeah.
data science.
Something that's really interesting at Etsy that I love about the culture is that there's like probably one or two people on the analytics team that have a PhD in statistics, but everyone else comes from very different backgrounds. So one of the senior data scientists on my team, he transitioned from being a UX researcher to a data scientist because he was interested in the field, and it's very easy to like internally switch within the company. The director of analytics, she majored in political science, worked the Hillary campaign, and now she works in analytics. So I love that there's a lot of like soft skills that you can transition into data science or in tech in general. And I graduated in IT, which is not data science, but it's still the intersection. At UC Santa Cruz, it was described as the intersection of business development and computer science. And that kind of is like what data science is. You feel like a jack of all trades. I would describe myself as a jack of all trades because, like I said before, you're not just a coder, you're a statistician, problem solver.
I love that. I think that's so important to highlight too. And I don't know if you've come across this, but I remember when, not so much anymore, but when I would tell people like, oh, what do you do? And I say, oh, I'm a software developer. And different people had different reactions, but a common one was almost like, oh, so you sit behind a computer all day and you don't talk to people. I'm like, that is the furthest thing from the truth. And I think and I'm sure for you as well, even like hearing about how Monday to Wednesday is a lot of meetings and you need so many soft skills. You got to utilize so many soft skills as well.
Right. Yeah. A lot of my job is actually like communicating with stakeholders. And if I find that being a good data scientist is asking really good questions. And sometimes you kind of have to fish that out of your stakeholders. Like, what are they really trying to ask? What is the real problem we're trying to solve here?
Wow, that's really interesting. And then on that note, kind of soft skills, what are some qualities, or if someone's considering getting into data science, aside from, of course, the technical skills that they need to possess, what are some other qualities that you think makes a really good data scientist? I know you mentioned asking really good questions. What else?
Oh, can I blow my nose?
Yes, of course.
So I think data science is just as much an art as it is a science. And we both come from the creative modeling field. And posing requires a lot of creativity. So when you are solving a data science problem, you really have to take a creative approach. And like, let's say you don't have enough data, you have insufficient data. You need to apply an algorithmic approach in solving the problem. And that's where the art form comes in, using your different tools. Like, am I going to use a random forest, or am I going to use linear regression to solve this problem? So that's what I enjoy about
I love that. It sounds like there's so many ways to solve a problem, or to I don't know if that's the right term, but to gather data. It's not just a one linear way. There's so many different ways, and that's kind of the creative process too. You've been mentioning a bit about modeling as well, and I know you are a 3-time runner-up Miss New York, right?
Yes, I was a third runner-up.
Oh, third runner-up.
Miss New York USA 2021.
That's amazing.
Or 2022, and I'll be competing again this next year. So hopefully we'll be Miss New York USA 2023.
You will. Yes. Miss New York USA 2023, going to speak at Grace Hopper. 2023 is going to be a great year. It's coming. I know. That's amazing though. And I love that on your social, you really highlight that. I don't want to say highlight, you just really share it. And I think that's so important too, because really showing that, hey, yes, I'm a data scientist, but also look, these are other interests and other passions I have. And I just think it's so relatable in the sense that you can have, and you should have, continue to pursue other passions and hobbies as well. So thank you this is just a thank you for doing all of that, because I think it's really amazing.
I think women are naturally multifaceted. Like on top of full-time jobs, usually women are mothers, sisters, daughters, and we just hold so many different titles that we are just so naturally like doing everything at once.
I agree. We're kind of like superheroes. And on the note of social media, you you post some incredible. I love when you share about stats around women in STEM and different really um, educational material around that. And for me, looking at it, I understand why it's so important. But
Mhm.
why? What made you start sharing these videos, and why do you continue to? Because as we just said, you have so much on the go. Why do you find it important to continue to do that?
So in my senior year
Hmm.
of university, I started posting on social media because I um, also wanted to give back to the community that has greatly inspired me.
Yeah, yeah.
But at the same time, I was also almost failing my computer networks class. I was taking for
Okay.
the second time, and it's something that's required to
Okay.
graduate. And I just felt so lost and helpless and thought
Mm-hmm.
I was not going to end up as a data scientist or in tech at
Mm-hmm.
all. Um, up until I joined, um, up until I joined Girls Who Code College Loops
Mm-hmm.
and Society of Women Engineers on campus. Just having like this group of women that are relatable and
Mm-hmm.
has been in your shoes.
Mm-hmm.
They all made me feel very safe and felt like I belonged in tech.
Yeah.
So I started posting on social media because like other women need this solid circle of women that will support them, that will help them get through
Yeah.
these difficult classes, because you are definitely not alone.
Yes, and it's so easy to it, it's so for me anyways. I still sometimes feel alone, and I mean now when you go online and all that, it's an amazing community. But I definitely feel like I can't even starting out now, like for young women who are breaking into tech. There is so much that you have to overcome, and so much things
Mhm.
of doubt. And I have had so many moments where I'm like, is it worth it? Having those feelings of being alone and isolated, and different work environments, different things
Yeah.
coming up, right?
And
And
that's like way more important for women to be in a culture that they can
yeah,
see themselves grow in, that is
yes,
inclusive. I feel like that's not as important for our male counterparts,
yeah,
but
yeah,
like you work for a startup now,
yes,
right?
yeah.
And one of my best friends just started as the first woman hire in her startup,
Wow.
and you can like she rants to me all the time about like how the culture is not as accepting as a bigger company,
Yes,
and that's how you lose women in STEM.
you do.
And I one of my videos was sharing this recently that 45% of women um, l- like leave STEM
Yeah,
more
yeah.
at a rate faster. They leave at a 45% a faster rate
Yeah.
than men do.
It's crazy.
So if we like built a culture of belonging,
I know. I
we
know.
could keep them.
Even to and on that note of culture of belonging, even to just speak. I had I had another individual on prior to this. I'm not sure which will air for like the order of this, so
Yeah.
maybe not. But anyway, we were talking a lot about imposter syndrome, and I know that's something that's talked about a lot. But just hearing others' experiences, hearing her experience, and hearing your experience, even with when you were in your last year of school and having this computer networks course that you were, struggling with and having those doubts. Am I going to become a data scientist? Sharing those things, it just makes others, I mean, for myself, I feel like, wow, others have those feelings too. Like, and that
Mhm.
alone just was like, okay, like just makes me take a deep breath, which is nice too.
Yeah, all the sweet DMs that I get about
Yeah.
women thanking me about the
Oh.
content that I'm sharing, it just really like warms my heart and
Hmm.
knows that it's actually very impactful.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I love that. It's so good. And then, okay, kind of going back to your interests. So yes, you going for uh, third runner up Miss New York. Am I saying that right? Third runner up.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Miss New York, yes.
And then
Yes.
2023 Miss New York USA. Of course, this is
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
happen.
Manifesting to the
Yes.
universe. Yes.
And then as well, modeling on the side of working data science.
Hmm.
So many jobs. How do you balance it all, or how do you manage it?
I get this question a lot.
Yeah.
I consider myself a multi-potentialite, a jack of all trades.
I like this.
So I love pursuing all of my passions
Yeah.
at once. And I balance everything by, I'm a serial planner. Like I have a Google Calendar, I have a physical planner, I have another planner on my wall.
Yeah.
Like I plan everything except Sundays. I like make sure I have like a
I
Sunday
love that.
reset.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, that's how I manage everything.
Yeah.
and saying no to things that are not a priority, um, and being able to balance not only work and social media, but also going to social events and things
Yes.
that just like make your soul happy.
Exactly. Keeping, that connection close with friends and family and prioritizing that as well. And do you find that having all of these different interests and passions that you do, that they I don't know the right term, but they bleed into one another, meaning like a lot of your experience from modeling in some ways helps you as a better data scientist even, or like is it just different facets kind of connect each other?
I think in the interview process, because Etsy is my first full-time job,
Mm-hmm.
when they were asking me questions about prior experience,
Mm-hmm.
I did tell them that I modeled and
Yeah.
different soft skills that were applicable to this job now. So that's how they kind of like bleed into each other.
Yeah.
But besides that, no, they're like all pretty separate, except like in being in tech
Yes.
and being a social media content creator.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that kind of bleeds into each other.
I'm sure though, even with Miss New York USA,
Oh, yeah,
when
yeah.
when young girls are looking up to you and then, looking up to you and then they see, oh wow, she's a data scientist. I'm sure through that as well, you're even maybe unknowingly inspiring millions of young girls around when they're watching, like, wow, she can do that. I can do that too.
Yeah, that's why I love pageantry,
Hmm.
because as a model, it's honestly a lot about your looks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, that is what you are casted for. In pageantry, you get to have an advocacy, a platform, and mine is
Yes.
women and diversifying, but also having a more inclusive environment for women in STEM.
Mm.
And yeah, I'm glad that pageants give me that outlet to do both.
Yeah, exactly. I always wrap up our conversations with this question, and it's a large question, so however you feel you want to answer it, but what advice would you give your younger self?
I would tell my younger self that rejection is just redirection. As a model and a data scientist, any model can tell you this, that you don't get 100% of the castings that you go to.
Yeah.
You go to multiple and you experience so much rejection. And even with the tech interview process, I probably applied to like over 150 jobs before I landed my first full-time position at Etsy. And just trust in the process, the journey, that something bigger and better is out there for you. Um, and yeah, that is what I would tell my younger self.
I love that. I need to just listen to this on repeat because it's so you never can hear that enough. It's so true. It's such an important reminder. Thank you so much for connecting with me today and sharing not only about data science, but your journey as well. And it was just, I'm leaving this conversation feeling really inspired. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Like, we follow each other on
I
social media,
know.
like DM each other all the time.
Yeah.
And like, it's our first time meeting.
I know.
I love
It's
it.
so great. I know. And I'm linking all the socials down below so everyone can check your wonderful self out. I'm sure most of them already
Thank
have,
you.
but thank you. Thanks everyone.
Oh my God, that went by so quickly.
It goes so quick, right?
Yeah.